It is a madhouse in the BioWare booth at PAX here, but
absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Somehow I have managed to grab Jay Watamanyuk.
That's right.
Oh, man, I practiced that so many times. How are you doing, sir? Have you lost all of your hearing yet, or just part of it?
It is. I'm going to tell you, it's pretty loud on the floor here, but I think we're partially to blame for that. We have definitely souped up the audio a bit. Exactly right. Well, we want people to enjoy the game. It's about dialogue, it's about character, it's not just combat, so we want people to hear that as well, so it's all cranked up.
Yeah, well, so we're starting up the demo here, so why don't you walk us through what's going on? I mean, we're looking at starting with some cinematics and some dialogue choices.
Correct.
So why don't you tell us how that's evolved?
How it's evolved. Mass Effect 2, we've actually taken a leap forward from Mass Effect 1, working with the Unreal Engine. Great privilege working with an engine. It's a great engine, but there was a few challenges. Mass Effect 1, it was a new engine for us. We're unfamiliar with it, but Mass Effect 2, it is a lockdown engine. All the customized stuff that we put on top of the engine to deal with the RPG element, it's all locked down. So Mass Effect 2, it really smooths a lot of the technical issues we might have encountered on Mass Effect 1. It's all smoothed out. What's going on here is we're actually doing one of the core things in Mass Effect 2, which is acquiring some specialists for your team. Now these are people from across the galaxy that they're the best at what they do. Some of them are good guys, some of them are bad guys, I'm not going to lie to you. But the mission that you have, it's touted as a suicide mission. There are pockets of humanity that are disappearing across the galaxy, and of course, as Commander Shepard, we need to solve that, and it seems like an impossible situation, so we need to go out and get the very, very best. And sometimes these people are bad news. On this mission here, we're going to be acquiring a guy named Thane. Thane is one of the world's best assassins, one of the galaxy's best assassins. He's definitely a badass, and we're not sure what we're going to encounter here. We've heard that he's on a mission to assassinate this person, and we think the only way in order to get in contact with this guy is to intercept him before he gets to his mark. Okay. So right now we're headed off to this particular tower in the middle of the city here, and we're hoping that we can run into him. And is it good that we want to run into the world's best assassin? Maybe not. Maybe not.
So we're looking at some of the new combat stuff here. Can you tell us what are some of the new features you've added to streamline the combat experience?
Some of the, it's a frame rate, texture popping, all of that stuff. We've solved all of those issues as we take another look at it. There's a lot of things. There's new weapons like heavy weapons. He's got a rocket launcher in there. He's probably showing off a bit there. You can see that there's a lot of it's using the wheel there. There's not just bionic powers on the wheel now. There's also different types of ammunition you can throw onto your weapons. What we've done in Mass Effect 2 is also add more visual elements. You'll notice when he brings up his gun, that when he switches ammo type, you can see that it's lit up differently. That's to help the player along. It's like, okay, what ammo am I using right now? Things can get pretty fast and furious in the middle of combat, so it's great to have visual cues to help people along.
So you guys have you've added some stuff in terms of command ordering,
That's right.
Directing your squad mates to do different things. How have you kind of smooth that stuff out?
One of the things we wanted to make sure that we covered Mass Effect 2 was the ability to keep the game running without pausing. There's a lot of commands you can give your squad members on the fly. You can send them in, it's far more specific, and you don't have to pause to do it. That's one of the great things. A lot of the feedback that we received, and certainly as community manager, gathering up feedback from fans itself, being able to pass that along to the dev team and have them take a look at that and incorporate that into Mass Effect 2. One of the huge pluses, I'm very pleased about that. And one of the big pieces of feedback was, hey, I'd like to just keep playing the game. I don't want to pause in the middle of the action to arrange my party, to arrange my guns, things like that. So we've taken great steps with the GUI to make sure that if you want to play that type of game, that's the game you're going to get. Right. Now, of course, if you're a pause and play, you're a little more cautious, you want to use more tactics and things like that, it's always an option. You can see Nick there on the controls. He's sending his squad members ahead, or he's rallying him back to Shepard. There we go. So he's sending them off ahead to make sure that they can use tactics when dealing with the enemy. Yeah. There's a lot of enemies here, and just flying in is going to get you killed.
And all of that, as you said, is happening without him stopping the game and issuing those orders.
Exactly right. He's not pausing here. He's doing it to show off some of the stuff, obviously, for your story here, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Now, we're facing a lot of resistance here. You'll notice that there's a lot of new characters. In this demo, there's no Geth. These are all different types of troopers and security forces for this woman itself. Very different. So there's a lot of new enemies in Mass Effect. There's a lot of new weapons in Mass Effect 2.
But the Geth are still a threat, right?
The Geth are in the game.
Okay.
Let's say that the Geth are certainly in the game.
Okay.
And we'll definitely talk about them in a bit. One of the core things in Mass Effect 2, apart from smoothing out the combat, No, use of biotic powers there. There are some new variations of biotic powers as well that the player will have to discover as he goes along. Some really cool ways to use powers that you might be familiar with in Mass Effect 2, but they've been revitalized and revamped for Mass Effect 2.
You guys have added a new heavy weapon class. Can you tell us?
That's right.
How does that work?
Not revealing a lot of details yet, but in some of the trailers you've seen the Nuke Gun, you can see the rocket launcher here. You'll also see that there's ammunition associated with heavy weapons. Now, we're not going to give you something called a Nuke Gun and say, okay, go nuts, you can fire it as much as you want. What we wanted with the heavy weapons is a more strategic or tactical view of it. It's like, okay, I've got a limited amount of ammo with this, that it can cause a huge amount of devastation. I think the purpose is to sort of, okay, I'm in trouble, but I want to save this special weapon until I'm in dire need, and then I can pull out the heavy weapon and really do a lot of damage. In this demo itself, you can see there's some rocket turrets up in the corner there. They're really damaging our party, and they're tough to get to. So I can pull out the sniper rifle, or I can pull out the rocket launcher to deal with them. Because if I leave them up there, we're going to get killed. Because you can't have rockets being fired at you as you're trying to get through all these bad guys.
Okay, so I'm sure Thane is a badass. I'm sure all these new recruits are great and everything. But
absolutely,
we've obviously got some favorites from the first game. You know, Rex, close to my heart,
yes,
personally.
Indeed. Yes,
are we going to see those guys popping back up? Or are they at least going to factor into the storyline somehow?
That's probably a better way to put it. Now, depending on, as you know, moving from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, people have the ability to carry their game over. It is the Shepard that you created in Mass Effect 1. There's a lot of dramatic choices you made in Mass Effect 1. Is Rex alive or dead?
Yeah.
With party members alive or dead? Now, all those decisions, if you choose to bring your save game over, will affect how Mass Effect 2 plays out. And not just the major ones. There's a lot of decisions along the way that will affect how the story unrolls in Mass Effect 2. As far as team members and people close to your life, the Cadens and the Ashleys of the world, well, let's just say that some of them do make an appearance. Some of them are in Mass Effect 2, but I can't detail how.
All right.
Of course.
We'll just have to wait. All right.
Exactly right.
Obviously, there were some kind of moral choices in the first game. I mean,
Yes,
you colored how Shepard responded to the world. But
that's right.
In this one, it seems like you're setting a darker tone. You know, he's got kind of almost a sinister element to his actions in this one. I mean, do you feel like you're sort of recentering like Shepard's moral alignment in this one?
A little bit. I mean, obviously we can't detail how the game starts, but it's been voiced a few times that this is definitely a darker chapter in the Mass Effect story, because Shepard himself, I mean, has gone through all these experiences in Mass Effect 1. What he has to deal with in Mass Effect 2 is in fact a darker force, and the only way you have to adjust yourself. You have to go through the swamp in order to get to the end. And that's why you're picking, you don't just have nice people in your crew, you have some pretty badasses in your crew, and some people that are pretty villainous. And you have to adjust, because this guy is the best at what he does. I need him, even though I don't agree with him, and don't agree with what he does.
Sure.
I mean, we're just about to meet Thane here, and he does have quite the entrance in this particular demo.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, so the little left trigger icon pops up in some dialogue scenes. I missed that when I was playing through. I didn't hit it in time.
It's pretty fast in this demo.
Can you tell me what that does and what effect it has?
Absolutely. The interrupt system. One of the pieces of feedback we received in Mass Effect 1 is great dialogue, great story. Oh, wait, let's just watch this section here.
This guy makes quite an entrance.
Yes. That's Thane the Assassin.
Is he a new race in the Mass Effect universe?
He is indeed
a guy
new
we haven't
race.
seen before, right?
But to get back to the interrupt system, now, you're in the middle of a conversation. Let's say you're sort of playing a character that's like, I have important things to do. I don't want to waste my time on this particularly weasel criminal or small-time petty anti-operator. So I have occasionally the interrupt button will appear, and then I will end the conversation. Now, how you end that conversation, you're not sure when you press that button.
Okay.
You're just committing to, okay, I'm going to end this conversation. Sometimes, like in the video trailer, I'm going to push the guy off the cliff. Sometimes, who knows? I'm just going to cut things short. Bad guy, good guy, you don't know.
Yeah, from what I've seen of it so far, it struck me as the violence option.
It's I would imagine there's a bit of a renegade overtone to cutting the conversation that short.
Sure, yeah.
So there's Thane there. Now, he's not what you would expect when you build someone as the galaxy's greatest assassin. You expect him to be cold, heartless, and a villain.
Yeah.
And then you meet him. He's certainly a badass. He took care of a room full of security guards and killed his target right in front of you, and he doesn't even acknowledge you.
Yeah.
He goes right into what looks like prayer. Now, why is he doing this? Thane's story is very, very interesting. You're just going to have to play the game to figure out where's this guy coming from. This is a guy who kills people for a living, but there seems to be some sort of guilt there or remorse.
He's got a philosophical bent to him for sure.
There is something going on there for sure.
So when are we going to get to play this game and find out all these secrets?
Mass Effect 2 slated for early next year. I'd say Q1 of next year.
Okay, very cool. That's not so long.
It's not so long.
Probably
it's
make
up.
it that long.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good.
Very
so
cool.
we just want to tighten it up, make sure it's polished and ready to go.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for your time.
You betcha.